This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
I'm Abigail Ward.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And tonight we're watching Mortal Kombat Annihilation. A group of martial arts warriors has only 6 days to save the Earth from an extra-dimensional invasion. Let's watch.
Mortal Kombat!
Mortal Kombat! So today we are honoured, delighted, enthralled, bewitched, bewildered to have our very, very special guest and friend, Mel Killingsworth, back on the podcast. Hello, Mel.
Yeah.
Hello. Wow. I should have brought a thesaurus.
Yeah. That's right. Match me. It's a challenge. Everything I do is a challenge. I'm throwing down a gauntlet every moment.
I love a competition.
Yeah.
Abby, I'm so glad you're so self-aware.
Hey. I love to challenge, but don't challenge me.
You hate to be
I will
challenged.
lash.
Abby, one time, repeatedly, I've tried to play video games with her. Sometimes it's really fun when we can work together. Anything that is a challenge, she hates it. One time I tried to show her chess, and she finally agreed.
You didn't show me chess. I used to play chess. I was in chess club in primary school.
Sorry.
I know how to play chess.
Well, okay, but you kept insisting that and then kept being like, I don't know if I want to play, I don't get it. And so I was like, okay, we'll play.
No, I get it. I didn't get the strategy you were showing me. So then I overturned the board.
Yeah, you
So
flipped
you
over
would
the whole
not
thing.
do well in the Mortal Kombat universe.
No,
then.
I wouldn't do well in most universe. This universe in particular, I'm not doing well in as well. But I don't think I'd perform well in any universe.
No one would they didn't do well in this universe.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I hate a challenge. Do you like a challenge, Mel?
I love a challenge.
You've barely gotten to speak. Hi, Mel.
Hello. This is delightful.
Good.
Happy New Year. I'm glad to be back.
Happy to be sweating in this room with us.
Yes.
On this beautiful 28-degree blue-sky day in Melbourne.
It's a nice day. Yeah, 28's not too bad.
Not too bad.
But it's a hot 28.
It
It
is.
It's a hot 28, you know?
It's a sticky kind of day. And like, I love days like this in a way, in a sense. But as I said, when sweat collects in my eye bags, I do go mental. Like, there is something about that makes me become feral.
Yeah.
It's been really nasty and muggy, and that's where it's like you get to like 20 and you're like, oh, it's cold but sticky. And then you get to like 28 and you're like, oh, it's so hot.
Yeah, I escaped Sydney because it was too humid. Why is it humid down here all of a sudden? What's going on?
Well, but it's that thing of when you're outside, it's windy, which is, I guess it takes off the heat, though. With my long hair that I don't always like to put up, just means I have my own like head cape. It looks ridiculous as I walk about the street with my thick mane blowing around
Head cape
everywhere.
sounds cool, though.
It sounds.
Head
It doesn't
cape.
look cool,
No,
but
well.
it sounds cool.
Does it feel cool?
No, I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Let's go through all the senses. Does it smell cool?
It smells awesome.
That's great.
It's really
What does
great.
it taste
Tastes
like?
cool? Yeah, thank you, Mel.
It tastes, well, often it tastes like my hair, which it smells better than it tastes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It tastes so clean and fresh and healthy. It doesn't taste
when I
like
was a
gummy
kid-
bears I left in there at all.
When I was a kid, I had a nervous habit of chewing my hair. Yeah, and my mum was like, you're going to get a hairball like a cat. And I probably did digest a lot of hair.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went.
When I was a little
don't care to
kid,
know.
I used to like ball my hair up in my fingers and then rip it out.
Fuck.
And it stressed my mum out so much.
How about you, Mel? Did you have any of these anxious idiosyncrasies?
I did the probably classic thing of was chewing gum that I wasn't supposed to be chewing. The gum got stuck in my hair, and as a like 5-year-old, I thought my parents wouldn't notice if I just cut it out. Oh. So then I did, and then of course they noticed because I had long hair, and then I had this massive chunk of hair that was just like at my eyeballs. Oh. And yeah, that was pretty bad.
Did you ever give yourself the little 8-year-old bangs where you cut your
My
own
mom
fringe?
gave me those, so it was
Oh,
fun.
okay,
Like
great.
she would try to cut my hair, and then it would be uneven, and she would keep trying to cut it shorter and shorter. So I had those bangs for about 4 years.
Oh, amazing.
It was-
there was one year that I did it myself. My mom was horrified, and it was like 2 days before my yearbook photo. So the 8-year-old yearbook photo I have, it's like truly just glaring at the front. Yeah,
straight out.
That's right.
Is American gum different? Because I feel like most of the gum I've had in my life, if it got in my hair, would like it's so matte and rubbery in a lot of ways. I feel like it's not as like inherently sticky.
Well, I haven't gotten gum stuck in my hair for years, and it's possible American gum is different.
Yeah,
or
maybe
it's
it's
possible that as a 5-year-old, I just ended up like making it worse and panicking and deciding. Apparently peanut butter, a couple other things can be used, but as a 5-year-old, I didn't have access to Google and I was panicking. So my solution, which it kind of still is, go for a sharp object. Solve the problem.
Well, as far as I know from many years of watching American TV shows, especially cartoons, is that when you put the peanut butter in, it makes an even bigger mess to the hilarity of the audience, and then you end up needing to cut it out anyway. Or Lisa Simpson then froze it.
I was thinking about Lisa Simpson, the layering of different spreads. Then she freezes it. They try and beat it out with a hammer, and then
Which
in
I
the
don't
end,
know
she
why
gets
that
it shaved.
would. Yeah.
I think that was Otto beating it out of her hair with a hammer.
I thought it was Homer, wasn't it?
Oh, dude, there was like 50 people gathered into the. I remember this episode very vividly.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It disturbs me that her little spikes are just her hair. Like,
Her
I know
blonde
it's
hair.
her hair, but it disturbs me nonetheless.
Yeah, it's blonde hair for their blonde skin.
But it looks like it's part of her body.
It does look like it's part of her body.
I didn't think we'd be going over the differences between gum.
Yeah, I'm going to cut all of
America
this out.
No, this is quality content.
Yeah.
We have an American in the
We
room.
can have
we
a
need to
side
grill them.
podcast about,
Yeah.
Yes, there is an American in the room.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, so we need to grill you on every difference between American and Australian culture.
Well, I was really thrilled. So, spoiler alert, we'll get this out of the way up front. I
Whoa.
watched the first movie accidentally,
Yes.
not realizing that I was meant to watch this movie. So I watched them both. And in the first movie, I was so proud of myself because there was this guy with an accent and it was a bit off. And I'm like, that's an Aussie accent, but it's not really. And I did some research and it turns out that he was British, but for years had affected an Australian accent and claimed he was Australian. And then apparently the character that he was in the movie was read as Australian, and it wasn't an original Mortal Kombat character. So when they put that character in the video games later, they made that character Australian, all based off of this lie that this guy had told for years with his life. And I knew who he was because I had seen him on Jag, which
Oh my
was the
God.
origination of NCIS, which now
Yeah.
has a Sydney spin-off. Like, Jag's been going on. And
I know
he played
Jag.
an Australian
I have a grandma,
on
I know
Jag.
Jag.
He played this, like, hunky Australian on Jag, but he wasn't Australian even then. Like, they cast him
Insane.
thinking he was Australian. I think
was
if you're
his
Australian
name?
and you're acting in the US, that it's way cooler to say that. We love Australians. If you say you're British, you're like, yeah, whatever.
I've heard from an American that it's brutal out there if you're an American actor because like everywhere keeps hiring Australians, English people, Irish people. They love everywhere except American actors.
And they're better at doing accents, though. Like,
Yeah, that's
Australians are way better at doing just about any. Matthew McFadyen in Succession is not just putting on a New York accent, but he's putting on a New York accent with a slight Midwest twang, because I've lived in the Midwest, and every once in a while, when his accent, quote unquote, slips, it slips into a Midwest, like those elongated things.
That's
and he's doing that. It's
amazing.
incredible.
He's an incredible
And
actor.
and you listen to him talk,
I've always
and his
been
actual
obsessed
accent.
with Matthew McFadden.
Absolutely.
He always used to pop up at little BBC shows I would watch. He's married to Keely Hawes, absolute favorite because she's 6 foot tall and hot. So of course I had a crush. And yeah, just seeing him fucking blossom into a revered actor in Succession really warms my heart. He's
Yeah.
so fucking good. But who is this actor? What was his name?
I'd have to look up the.
Was
well,
Billy
I've got
Bob
the
I'd have to
cast
look up-
here now.
okay.
So if you want to skim through,
So it's this.
that's for the 1995 one.
Trevor Goddard.
That's him?
That's this. This is that guy.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah,
He
so
is from
I
England.
learned a lot of lore that I didn't need to learn, it turns out. But now I have seen both of the movies.
That's good because I didn't get time to watch the original because I didn't realize this was a sequel until today before I watched it. And I'm so glad at least one of us have watched it because this movie, I don't have any fucking clue what was going on in many
and it's
ways.
way less confusing than the first one. The first one
It's
somehow manages to give way more expositional dialogue and be completely less understandable. It's really impressive.
Well, I'm also in the
honestly.
same boat. I haven't watched the original. I intended to. Ran out of time. So, Mel, you were the most experienced person here at the table. Let's give Mel a hand, everybody.
Yeah. Well, I know some of the stuff from the games, though.
Yeah, and that's the
I
thing.
assume
You
they
also
ignore a
have
bunch of
game
that.
knowledge. So me, your host for this evening, has the least knowledge at the table. Yeah.
I also love that you keep saying this evening. It's 2:00.
It's this evening,
bright
Mel. We
outside.
always live
I
in
love
the
it.
evening.
I
And
love
I
it.
always say, tonight we're watching,
Yeah.
and we've watched it 3 days ago at 10 a.m.
Mel, this
That's
is
our
part of the
life.
illusion we're crafting.
When
for the
I'm
listeners,
listening
okay?
to it, sometimes it's tonight.
There we
So,
go.
Yeah.
I
But
assume-
now that I'm here, A, I'm hearing the theme song in my head as you guys are recording the intro, and B, it's throwing me for a loop.
I
Yeah.
assume listeners are only listening to this after dark.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why we can talk about jizz so much.
And jotting.
And jotting.
Coming, jotting, jizzing, jopping.
Jerping, sorry.
Jerping.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Oh.
Also, I will say, just on the note of Australians in America, it is so true that Americans love Australians. When I went to Chicago,
100%.
I was buying a bag at just a very normal looking store. It wasn't like high end or luxury, but I was just buying a bag, and the guy was showing me the bag section. He was like, by the way, can I ask, are you Aussie? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, it's an honor to meet you. And he shook my hand. He like asked to shake my hand like I was the fucking queen dropping in.
Well, that is a step.
It was intense.
Further than I mean,
It was
but
intense.
I was dating an Aussie, and when we would be at a bar, I would have her go up and order all the drinks and like I was like lay on the accent really thick, and she's like, "What?" I was like, "This is not like Australia. Like people will give you free drinks.
Yeah.
People will, like she would you just lay on the accent really thick, and Americans love that shit.
Whereas Australians do not like Americans.
I mean,
they're very. Like,
there's
what's your
good reason for
experience?
that.
I think it's been quite earned.
Absolutely.
If I'm being honest.
Is that your lived experience, Mel?
I've been here long enough now that I think I've got I live here, but I will say when I very first moved here,
yeah.
I was desperate to adapt any other accent from anywhere else in the world so that people at parties would stop. It was before I moved here, like before the Trump election. And the first one, because we're about to come up on another one. So if
in case you're listening to this in 2025, the first time.
And like the people would like come at me, asking who I thought would win, and then they never liked my response. And I'm like, well, why are you asking? But also then like attacking me personally for really specific. Like I had one woman who I had literally met like within 30 seconds was like, I would never live in America. That prison industrial complex is gross. And I was like, hang on, offshore detention. Do you know what that is? Like, and it made me want to defend something abhorrent, right? I'm like, I'm not defending the prison industrial complex, but like people would hear my accent and just be like,
there's nothing
Bang.
Australians love more than dunking on Americans for things that we actually do. They just don't realize.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. It is true. We're very hypocritical. We're like, wow, racism. And don't get me wrong, racism in America is so tangible and distinct, but there's still plenty of it in Australia, and we try and deny that. We're like, well, we got it figured out.
We just say it with a friendly voice.
Gough
It doesn't mean we're not
shook
racist.
that guy's hand in 1974. Therefore, racism is over in this country.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't even let him finish being prime minister.
No, we didn't, because it was too controversial to shake that man's hand. Let's get into the film, guys.
Yes.
Let's talk Mortal Kombat.
we can solve everything by hitting it with fists. That's what we have learned from these
Yes, that's right.
films.
Violence is the answer.
Correct.
Fantastic. So also like what are your guys, like what was your impression of the film? How did you enjoy it? Because I've got to say, watching it tonight was fucking crazy. It was such a joy, but also strangely boring as well. But I loved it. I would watch it again.
I think this movie slays. I think this movie fucks. There's so much, and when I say slay, I mean it specifically. I think it is a camp masterpiece that is also one of the biggest pieces of gibberish I've ever watched in my life. Yeah. There's a point where one of the villains, Sindara?
Oh, if we're supposed to remember whose name is who,
Okay.
It's Sindel. You mean the mother of Katana?
Yeah, who indeed was Mother.
Yeah.
Who at one point is like talking to the goodies, and she's like standing there, and one of the others talk, and she does a full spin around to then face the same direction and continue speaking.
It's so camp.
Just a
You're
little
so
spin
right.
move.
And the costumes are camp. The line delivery is camp. It feels queer, even though there's nothing queer about it.
What confuses me about having watched them both together is I watched the first one, then I watched the second one, and I went on like Letterboxd and some other places and just saw some reviews after I watched them both. And there's all these people who have, by the way, the films are basically the same. Like they have very similar cinematography, complete lack of plot, but they're still trying to tell you what the plot is. You're like, I don't care. This is a cutscene. Just get me to the next fight. And people are talking about the first scene, and they're like, it's dream logic because it makes no sense, and it's camp, and it's gibberish, and it is like insane. 5 stars. And then they talk about the second one. You're like, there's no plot. It's camp.
There's
It's
no
dream logic. 1.5 stars. And you're like, wait, it is literally the same movie. They actually both have very, very similar plot points. You have a dead brother. You have a surprise. I'm actually a brother. You have this like weird, we're going to be misogynist, but we're going to try to lampshade it so it's fine. You've got all these like, you've got the like dead partner, although in the first one it had happened off screen, and on this one it happened like that you're trying to avenge. It's honestly, the haircut of most of them has not changed.
Yeah.
They have swapped out one actress, who I actually think the second one is a better martial artist.
Well, they swapped out a few actors between the films.
They did.
Yeah.
But some of them, I was confused at first whether or not they were playing the same person or whether they were playing like
New characters.
a brother of them. And then you have one who takes off his mask. He's like, "You died." And he's like, "That was my brother." I'm like, I thought you were the same one. And then ones that I thought were different were anyway. But I'm very confused as to why one of these is, and honestly, listeners, I will invite anyone, honestly, please, if you're like, first one, masterpiece, second one deserves to be on this list, please. I'm on
Explain.
Letterboxd. Explain this to me because, and
I think
Do
that's
not
so
email
interesting.
rating descending for this.
We have no
find me
interest.
on the socials.
We're trying to move along as quickly as possible. No, because that's so interesting. Because when I was looking up the first one, I thought people have talked about the first one, saying that they love it, that it's one of their favorites. They grew up loving it. And then when I was looking at the reviews, I was like, well, the reviews aren't as high as I thought it was going to be for the first one. So it made me question it. So it's so good to know that the first one is also just as fucking bad.
The CGI is the first one does have two things I think kind of going for it. The first, like, the score is quite similar, but I think the score is in the first one's really good. But they do use a few more practical effects, and by that I mostly mean like there's a guy in the first one that has two sets of arms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Goro, right?
Yeah, and he's got sure.
Okay, Goro.
but
he's a
there-
Shokan.
there's a
That's a
lot
half
that
human,
are-
half dragon.
Oh, there's a half human, half dragon in the second one too.
She's also a Shokan.
okay.
Yeah. They're
both
so
the same
that's not
species.
the name. That's the species.
Yeah,
Got it.
his name is Goro. Her name is Shiva. The
Right.
species is Shokan, a
Well-
half human, half dragon.
Okay.
Which mostly
The-
manifests in him being tall
clearly.
and having 4 arms.
In the first one, there's a lot more of the practical stuff with his like torso, and a lot of the CGI stuff is like the weapons that are being thrown. Whereas in the second one, you've got a lot of the weapons that are practical, but a lot like the two arms.
The
are
two
all
arms
clearly
are
very
CGI'd.
But the green screen is just as bad in both of them.
Oh,
Which for
the
me,
green screen is so
I'm like, it's
notably
fine
bad.
because you're riffing on a background of a video game, and it makes it look 2D, and it also gives them that weird little outline, like when they're flying through the air.
outline
And I'm
is
like,
so
but that looks
funny.
like a video game. I'm like, sure, but that happens in both movies.
But I don't think that was intentional. I don't think
No,
they
of
would have
course
kept
not.
the
Of
outline if
course
they
not.
couldn't. Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah. No, but I've never played the original Mortal Kombat games. Michelle, can you just explain to us from your memory, from what you've played, just your experience playing the games, the universe that you remember? What's the vibe?
Well, I don't have the same relationship with Mortal Kombat as I do with Street Fighter, notably because I didn't have the main thing that motivates me to learn a lot about something like I did with Street Fighter and Marvel, which is no pretty girl asked me to learn about this, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know as much. I just know mostly from how common the video game references to it are, and having played the first one years ago and then once playing 11, I think. I know that, like the lead guy is Liu Kang. I know that Raiden is a thunder god who was mostly trying to, I don't know, like assemble the forces of good, because the whole thing, which is the plot of the first one, of like there's Mortal Kombat is a tournament that is held in the outer world, which is a world that used to just be its own place, but then was taken over by Shao Kahn. And if Earth loses 10 tournaments consecutively, which I think is very funny to make them consecutive, then they're allowed to invade Earth. And they'll definitely win because like they're much better at stuff, I guess.
And they cheat, and they've got magic, which watching the first one as well. Like you have a fight, you'll have like 4 fights in a row, and in one of them they use magic, and in another they use weapons, and in a third one has a weapon and one is barehanded, and in one they're like using martial arts moves, and then in the next one it's all like literal like crotch punches and WWE moves, and I'm like, what are the rules to this? Are there rules?
Well, this is
in Mortal Kombat? Are there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. Street Fighter, there is some magic, but it's mostly martial arts. Mortal Kombat is spiritually more like Tekken, which is a much more of a blend between like, there's a guy who's really good at Taekwondo. There's a guy who's actually a bear. There's a guy who is the devil. Like, that's Tekken, right? It's kind of more like a shonen. Like in Naruto, it's all like, they're ninja. They have ninja powers. So some of them can throw shurikens really well. One guy's a shark. Ninja stuff, It operates on that logic.
Yeah.
You could be so good at martial arts that you're actually a wizard.
Yeah.
That's Mortal Kombat, I mean, this movie's insane in that Johnny Cage, who is like one of the main guys, and is like the comic relief, gets killed in the first
He's the
5
comic
minutes.
relief.
Well, he's the secondary protagonist. He's like the
In the
fucking
first one,
Han
he's the one who
Solo.
makes all the sexist comments and then it's like, ha ha ha.
Because he gets 2 lines in
He's-
this before
he's-
he's
I think
killed.
the actor must have been like asked for too much money. Like, what happened?
He's the fucking Han Solo of the movie, and he gets killed 5 minutes
Well,
in.
I don't know if you noticed, but they had to replace him. That was another actor that they replaced between the first and second
But why?
because he didn't want to come back due to the
Okay.
script. I'll launch into some of the key
Yeah.
details, and then we can go into some of
I don't
these-
have as much of a breakdown as I did last time, but if you have any questions, I'm like, I might know some of the lore
Yeah,
behind
fair.
this thing.
I literally, I'm on sometimes on a different podcast called Draft Zero, where I go through and read a bunch of scripts, and I read a lot of scripts in my daily life as well. And I cannot imagine reading this script and saying, no, this is incoherent, but this other one that was
perfect.
They're both just as incoherent. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
It
not
does
saying
make
that
you wonder. I would love to see both scripts.
it had to have been the money, and
Listeners-
they just say it's about the script.
Listeners, if you have the script, send it to us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. Please.
It really makes a difference.
It really makes
I
a
would read
difference.
it. 10 of 10 would read.
Here's some, and also just with the Mortal Kombat series, just before we move on, obviously it was developed in 1992 by Midway Games, and this film was based on the game Mortal Kombat 3, which came out in 1995. It tried to emulate the vague plot that happened in that game.
Sure.
And also, when you look at the Mortal Kombat franchise, I didn't realize how many titles it had under its
Oh,
belt.
yeah.
That it's a stupid amount. Like in 1992, you've got Mortal Kombat, 1993, Mortal Kombat 2, 1995, Mortal Kombat 3, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, 1996, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, 1997, Mortal Kombat Mythology, Sub-Zero, Mortal Kombat 4, 1999, Mortal Kombat It keeps going. It just keeps
Well, Sub-Zero
going.
is actually the only character who's been in every single Mortal Kombat.
Really?
Yeah, he's sort of like an anti-hero turned hero in a lot of ways.
He's the one who got killed with the ice bike?
Well, so that's the thing. So that's his older brother. In the first game, there's Sub-Zero, who is
Yeah.
more of a villain, but then he gets killed by Scorpion,
Yeah.
who is just a palette swap of him. That's why they look the same, but Scorpion's yellow. He's the
Yeah.
get over here
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Voiced by Ed Boon, one of the creators of the game. But then Sub-Zero comes back in the second one. And he's actually playing the original ones. I can't remember their real fucking names, but he comes back he's the younger brother who's trying to avenge Scorpion, who it's later revealed was actually killed Sub-Zero because he thought he killed his whole family, but it was a different sorcerer. Now, the original Sub-Zero does come back as a sort of revenant named Noob Saibot, which is the names of Ed Boon and something Tobias backwards.
It's the other creator of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Noob Saibot is in this movie for like 2 seconds.
Noob Saibot.
It's the most
What a
insane name of
name.
anything.
So good.
So here's some of the key details, guys. This film was directed by, with the original film, and this, tickles me, makes me very happy. The original film was it was directed by the guy that did Highlander.
Yeah, was it
W.S.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah. We love Highlander, but, the rest
he
of
didn't direct Highlander, did he?
he created it. It was his.
I don't think it was Paul W.S. Anderson.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. You're so right. Wait, where did I pull this from?
We're cutting all of this out.
Yeah, we are. We have to.
Like we were
mind.
saying, fact.
Wait, hang on.
Because Paul W.S. Anderson has directed stuff we've watched before.
Yeah.
And I know because he's been a
Ooh, what
villain
has
of
he?
my life. One of my high school friends really loved his movies, and I just couldn't stand it
Really?
every time he showed me one of those movies.
Does he understand how to hold on a wide or a medium?
No,
rather?
he doesn't. He directed a lot of the Resident Evil movies.
Okay. I am so sorry. You're so right, Michelle. I don't know where I pulled that from. It was probably just because Russell Mulakai, I don't know how to say his surname, the Australian music video director that did Highlander 1 and 2, he went on to be like a potential to direct this film.
Oh.
Yeah, they wanted to get him in to direct this film. So ignore that, guys. Let's get back to it. So it was directed by this film was directed by John R. Leonetti. This was his directorial debut.
Ooh.
And what I love about Leonetti, we are familiar with Leonetti because years later, like he hasn't had a very successful career. He started as a cinematographer, which was successful. But then years later, after this directorial debut, he went on to do The Butterfly Effect too.
Oh my God!
Which is a film we did a long time
Yes.
on this
Sequel,
list.
yeah.
And it was terrible.
If I remember, that's also the episode where we established the IMDb Boss Baby lore.
Yes, I think it was. And he also directed Annabelle, which came out in 2014. That horror film. I never watched it. I'm not a horror film.
It's not my kind of movie.
Not my kind of film
I don't want to just dismiss it offhand. It's just not my kind of movie.
And also, he's produced a lot of things, or he's done a lot of cinematography and producing for a lot of other things that we recognize.
Why is this movie so ugly if he's a cinematographer?
I know, but he was a cinematographer for Joe Dirt. Very important film to me. Loved that film. He was the cinematographer on The Scorpion King The Scorpion King 2. He was the cinematographer for Honey, Raise Your Voice. He's done a lot of stuff as a cinematographer.
A lot of stuff with like dancing and like choreography.
Well, I was going to say, what is fighting if not dancing?
Yeah.
What's his name? Jacob Anderson, the guy who was Grey Worm in Game of Thrones. I think Jacob Anderson, and then he also had like
Grey Worm.
He had a short music career as like Riley Ritchie or something.
Yeah.
He once talked about how like fight choreography is easy because it's just counting and dancing basically, which I thought was
also
fun
hitting
take.
things, which is
Yeah, but I mean, you're emulating hitting things more often in film fighting.
This was written by Bryce Zabel and Brent V. Friedman. I couldn't find too much about those guys, but one of the producers, notably, is Lawrence Kasanoff, who directed Food Fight.
Yes! Oh my God! Kasanoff is back!
Kasanoff is back. And
Holy
Mel,
shit!
Just to fill you in, I don't know if you ever listened to the Food Fight episode of Seen Food Fight, have you?
No.
It's an animated film that came out in 2012, but it looks like it could have come out in 1996 because the animation style is all over the place. It had Wayne Brady, Charlie Sheen, and Hilary Duff as the voice actors in 2012, mind you. So at the end of their careers.
None of them at their peak, but all of them peaking at very different times too.
And it's this incredibly visually jarring film to the point where Lawrence Kasanoff...
I did hear the podcast, yes.
Where he asked one of the animators to look at it in a room and the animator vomited from how bright it was. That's who we're dealing with again.
I listened to the podcast and that is what made me decide not to watch it. Like if I'm going to get seasick watching this film, no.
The detail I always remembered about Lawrence Kasanoff is that because it was all going down the fucking drain, they got someone from the production company to watch him on the job.
Yes, that's
and
right.
They had a man in a grey suit just basically standing behind him, making sure he did his job. That, to me, is the funniest visual I'll ever get out of this podcast.
I'm going to go back and listen to that episode because I love Food Fight. That was
Food
great.
Fight is sensational. So he's one of the producers on this, which could explain what the fuck happened
It
here.
explains so much about this movie.
Yeah. It seems like everything he touches goes to shit, and then he tries to say, it was taken out of my hands. I didn't have any control over it.
It's
And
got
then you
the
start
mind
to
shit
think,
touch, you know?
Yeah. It's maybe you're the common denominator here, Lawrence. This film cost $30 million to make. And it made $51 million.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
The original Mortal Kombat, by the way, it had a budget like $20 million and made $100 million. So the original was such a commercial success.
Because this one looks like it was shot for $29 million less dollars.
Yes. Yeah.
And it looks
Where
like
did
it made
go?
half of that.
And as we know, so in terms of the cast as well, just to go over it, the only two returning actors from the first Mortal Kombat is Robin Shou playing Liu and Talisa Soto playing Katana. Raiden was recast. He was Christopher Lambert from Highlander.
God.
He was the lead guy in Highlander. He played Raiden, and the new guy that played him was James Remar. Sonya Blade was replaced. Initially, it was, I don't know the actress, Bridget Wilson? She was the woman. Did you guys ever watch Billy Madison?
Oh, not for a long
She was the
time.
teacher in Billy Madison. She was so pretty, and I loved her as a kid. I thought she was so cute. And she played the original Sonya, and apparently she did her own stunts, and everyone was really impressed by it. Yeah, she was also Miss Teen USA. Anyway, they replaced her with Sandra Hess, who is a Swiss actress. She's married to Anders from Battlestar Galactica, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Just a little Battlestar
We had a
crossover.
Battlestar connection last week with Terry Chan.
We did, yeah. Lots of
Look at
Battlestar
us go.
crossovers. Jax was replaced, and now the new actor is Lynn Red Williams.
Wait, Jax was in the original?
Yeah, Jax
Then
was.
why didn't he understand anything that
Apparently,
was going on?
do you remember him in the original?
Yes, vaguely, but again, that was one of the ones that it took me like halfway through the movie to realize, oh wait, no, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same character, especially because there's there's a lot of other stuff happening as well because you're going into different dimensions. You've got a guy who's got different arms. You had like a bionic guy in the first one, and then different things are being replaced. So I'm kind of like, to some extent, I'm like, maybe some of them have been resurrected. I don't know.
Sure.
That's so fair. And then there's also Johnny Cage. He got replaced with Chris Conrad, and as we said, he dies at the beginning of the film.
If they're gonna do that, though, why didn't they just kill him off screen?
Yeah, I don't know. And also, to be honest, can we just say, like, if you've done a film and you're gonna do a sequel, and basically like 18 out of 20 of the main cast members pull out, don't go ahead with it. You know, if you have to replace 80% of your cast, don't do it.
Because of the script as well.
Just take Robin Shou and just make everything about him.
Oh, and his beautiful hair.
Oh.
His hair is so gorgeous. I actually think like he is such a pretty man, and his mullety haircut looks so good.
Do you remember him from Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li?
We've got a return. We've got him coming back from Street Fighter playing Jen or Gen.
Jen or Gen. I can't remember which it was.
I can't remember either. But he was really charismatic in that.
Because wait, the returning ones was him. There was Talisa Soto was in Ballistic.
Yeah.
I also noted that Chris Conrad, because I recognized him, I was like, why does he look familiar? He was in the next Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And then was it James Remar was in Setup?
Yeah.
And a couple of them were in Street Fighter 2 as well. There's one or two crossovers with Street Fighter 2.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Wow.
So I can't believe we've had Talisa Soto 2 weeks in a row. Who would have?
Yeah,
thought?
that's crazy.
That's really strange.
It's rare
It's
that
the
we have
first
2
time.
weeks in a row.
I know, for the first time. So that's the cast members. I'm going to do a quick overview. I struggled. Apologies in advance. How can you fit all of what happened in that film into a concise overview? You can't.
You can't. I will say, when I read the overview of the first one, I'm like, this actually makes more sense than every expositional line they said. Why didn't they just have them say this at some point? But,
yeah. I did appreciate, as you said, Mel, it's so expositional. Like you could follow this one because it's so expositional. And I really appreciated that, having not seen the final film, where they're like, this is exactly what happened in the first film, and here they are now, and this is who everyone is. I was like, great.
Oh, I get it. I needed
Very
that because then the movie was like not holding back with just making stuff begin happening.
It happened very quickly.
The first act in this movie is 5 minutes long.
So here's the overview. Just bear with me. The Outworld Emperor, Shao Kahn, opens a portal to Earthrealm and has resurrected Queen Sindel, Princess Kitana's long-deceased mother, to facilitate his invasion. Thunder God Raiden and Earthrealm warriors Liu Kang and Sonya Blade and Johnny Cage try to defend themselves, but Kahn kills Cage. The Earthrealm warriors retreat to seek allies. Sonya Blade enlists the help of her special forces partner, Jax. Kitana is kidnapped, and Liu seeks out a shaman named Nightwolf. Oh, fuck, Nightwolf was so great.
God.
Who teaches Liu about the power of animality. I didn't understand the animality bit, so when he just said, it's my animality, I was shitting
That's
myself.
a reference because I think in Mortal Kombat 3 specifically, they introduced the animalities.
It's a concept in the game, but when this guy just blurts it out in the middle of a film, it hits well.
He's also, every single one of the major fighting franchises has at least one Native American character who can transform into a wolf.
Every time.
It's so weird and racist.
Every time.
So
this
awful.
is what Twilight got it from.
Yeah.
Not from this film.
I'm learning a lot about how much harder we should have been on Twilight's racism when we first watched it, where culturally we didn't get it.
We didn't get that it was such a trope, I think, when we encountered it. So we probably should have.
We really should have talked about it more.
Raiden sacrifices his immortality to freely fight alongside them as they rescue Kitana, and Raiden then reveals that Shao Kahn is his brother. Whoa. Raiden and the Earthrealm warriors make their way to Kahn, Sindel, and his remaining generals for the final battle. And I do kind of like how they all choose them. It was really campy, but they're like, I'll take that guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's sick. That's fun. Jax, Sonya, and Kitana emerge victorious over Kahn's generals, with Jax defeating Mitaro, Kitana defeating her mother, and Sonya defeating Ermac. Liu defeats Kahn, and the Earthrealm reverts to its former state. With Kahn's hold over Sindel broken, she reunites with Kitana. Raiden becomes an elder god himself, and Liu and Kitana kiss at the end.
Nice. That's a pretty good summary.
I don't know. It's too many names, but also all of them are just names. They're all just these fucking characters from a video game.
Yeah, and you didn't even get into Shiva or Motaro.
Well, Shiva, I love Shiva because Shiva in her final battle just immediately gets crushed.
She has like a chandelier fall on her.
Yeah, he literally cuts the chain and just, and that's actually a fun shot as well. Like there's some really fun shots in this film, and like they do that thing where it switches to like her point of view of it crashing down on her, and like
she has like a Bugs Bunny death though.
Yeah,
so
but
funny.
again, this is what hit me about the first one is you have all these fights when like people like lose, and then he like takes their soul, and they're all trying to be serious, and then suddenly it's like literally the guy wins by doing like dropping into the splits and doing a crotch punch, and you're just like. The tonal shifts, let alone the fight style shifts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what's happening.
You know what? I figured out the Highlander connection as you were saying that, which is Shao Kahn is played by budget Clancy Brown. This movie would be better if it was Clancy Brown. His delivery style is like if Clancy Brown occasionally forgot he was speaking in the middle of it, because he goes, "Too bad you will die." One of my other favorite ones is foolish.
child. I was thinking about that as well. The delivery is strange, and I actually love that actor. He's been in a couple of other things as well. His name is Brian Thompson. He has the biggest lips I've ever seen.
He does.
They're almost too big for his head, so it looks very distinct.
His
on
mouth
him.
is gigantic.
It's an enormous mouth.
Another one of my favorites of his was "You are my new general queen, Sindel." And I'm like, wait, is she a general queen or is she Queen Sindel?
Apparently his first small role was in The Terminator as like one of the punk youths.
Wow.
I think he might be one of the punks that the Terminator steals a jacket from or clothes from in the opening scene in the first film, potentially. But he's been in a bunch, and he often plays villains because he's got that great, deep, husky voice.
And he's bald, which for a long time meant that you would be cast as a villain.
Yes, yeah. Do you reckon that's like Lex Luthor's fault? Do you reckon he started that?
I actually think if anything, Lex Luthor might have popularized eventually the opposite. I don't know. Maybe it was, but...
Well, guys, guess what Brian Thompson was also in, notably? Joe Dirt.
Wow.
Second connection to
what
Joe
goes
Dirt.
around comes around.
I fucking loved Joe Dirt. When I was a kid, if it was ever on free-to-air TV, I would lose my fucking shit. I thought David Spade was actually funny.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah.
At least I thought he was actually funny for a while because I liked Just Shoot Me when I was a little kid.
See,
you know?
I was coming from Joe Dirt and Benchwarmers.
That's insane.
I'm revealing
That's
a lot to you guys
crazy.
today because
For
I
you to
feel
go-
like I can safely admit this to you guys and not get judgment back.
No, you're getting judgment back.
Okay, well, he played Buffalo Bill, or like the Buffalo Bill character in Joe Dirt, if you guys ever remembered it. No, you guys aren't massive Joe
no,
Dirt.
I know this is an audio medium, but our faces are so blank right now.
They
Just
really are.
completely-
I'm not
I've
a
got the
dirty,
wrong
you know?
audience.
Over.
If you, listener, like Joe Dirt, please email me at ratingdescending@gmail.com.
I hope we get an onslaught of emails after this.
I
'cause
hope we do, but something tells me I won't.
This turns into the new Cat in the Hat. I start getting a bunch of hate messages of like, Michelle, why don't you like Joe Dirt?
Mel Killingsworth must die for not knowing Joe Dirt. No, it's a great film. Anyway,
Mel Killingsworth
second.
Must Die is a good title, like a good
Yeah.
punk
It is
band
a
song.
great-
Yeah. It sounds like it could be like a young adult book, and then it turns into a really good TV show. you know?
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
No, but Netflix would make it like a season of like 20-minute episodes, and you're like, that really you
And
cut
it'd be
out
mine,
one,
and they
two
wouldn't
episodes.
let me direct.
Yeah, and then
that's
you're like, that could have just
bullshit.
been a movie, and then they
Yeah.
try and do a season 2, and then it's like, this is just a different thing, and it's not good, and it gets cancelled.
Yeah.
Oh God, I love
Accurate.
the way TV works now.
Netflix is really...
It's really thriving. It's
Yeah,
really the
it's
change we wanted
fantastic.
to see in the world.
But yeah, Brian Thompson was a really fun Shao Kahn because his delivery was just bizarro.
Bonkers.
One of my other favorite things about the delivery in this
Yeah.
is there's so many times, and I wrote a couple of them down, where people say something. So there's one, I think it's Sonya, is like, there's an extermination squad coming. And he said, what do you mean an extermination squad? And you're like, it's in the title.
Yeah.
It is very
Figure it out.
self-explanatory.
Is it Jax that says that? What's
Yeah.
an extermination squad?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
so.
him?
It's
Yeah.
like an extermination squad. There's another one where someone says in like a really profound voice, is like, what closes can open again. And someone's like, what does that mean? You're like, it means what gets closed can open again. Like that's how doors work, that's how windows work,
It's
that's how
not
portals
subtle
work, that's how
insight.
everything works. And people are like, what does that mean? And I'm like, of all the things to be questioning right
Yeah.
now, how
This
is
the
that?
furthest thing.
That is what you're questioning. There's multiple instances of that throughout this film, and I just laughed every time.
I
my
really
God.
loved Jax's, like, what I did like about this film, again, always just pulling at absolute, like, the bare minimum threads I can find about what's positive. But Jax, I loved that they were trying to make him some kind of comic relief, even though his quips were terrible, where, like,
Yeah.
he'd be like, well, I guess you don't want to talk then, and then they'd get into, like, a brawl, or he'd be quizzing. There's him and Sonya are walking through the desert, and at one point he just yells out, Sonya Blade, and I loved it. I was like, he's actually fun. I'm enjoying the scenes with Jax.
I like the ones with those two, especially at some point he's like trying to get her to explain what's happening, and she's just like, I don't have time for this. Use your imagination. I'm like, great, that's it. That's all I need.
Yeah.
He goes, my imagination. He's so confused about the concept of imagination.
Yeah, his character is confused.
That's before-
the one direction they gave
That's
him.
before one of my favorite bits. First, that like she fights the other lady in mud, and I'm like, this is just
Oh, God.
so
And then
that
he was
someone
like,
can
you
jack
look
off.
good in mud.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh,
whatever.
fuck off.
But then my favorite bit, which is like the statue behind her turns into the worst like PS1 boss
Yeah.
dragon you've ever seen, that's standing there, and Jax comes up and starts punching it from behind
But
with
you
his
don't
big metal
see
arms.
him come up and start
You
punching
don't.
it, by
No,
the
no,
way.
no.
He's suddenly just there
Appears.
punching it.
It cuts to him if he was in like an MMO, like if he was in fucking World of Warcraft, because he's just sort of ambiently punching while it stands there like loading its next attack cooldown.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
The direction of the fight scenes were truly highlights for me. me because there were obviously things they didn't cover. So all of a sudden there'd be a character appearing where you didn't expect them to. But sometimes the combat was fun and inventive. Like there was that scene where Sonya's busting Jax out of the place she grabs him from. Don't know how to describe it to you guys.
Yeah, sure.
And they're fighting with some of the, I guess, the troopers that come in. And there's this guy that runs at her and she kicks a TV into him. And I was like, that was fun. That was actually really fun.
I also
want to
sick. I want to shout out the fact that in that sequence particularly is where I notice it, because you get these like they're clearly just stunties because they cover their faces and so they can go through a lot. And some of these stunties are covered in what had to be very unwieldy armor, and some of them are actually accomplishing like decent martial arts moves. Not that the cinematography shows you them very clearly, but there was somebody who did like a triple chambered round kick while wearing like and I'm like, this is good. Like I understand exactly what you're doing, but to do it while wearing that armor and for camera and probably having to do it like 20 times, I'm like, I'm hella impressed.
What's a triple chambered round kick, and how do you know it? Do you know martial arts? What have you ever like done? I was going to say played.
Have you ever played martial arts?
I have a 2nd degree black belt. Actually.
Fuck off.
In what?
Every time I see you just drop
very
this
random.
Like really.
I've lived some very weird lives.
You have.
Okay, so a round kick is this kick. It's hard to demonstrate because I'm tethered to a table, but imagine a kick where you never set your leg down.
Yeah.
So it's in like, you pick your leg up and you chamber it.
Yeah.
And that's one. And you kick it
I
out,
see. Yeah.
And then you bring it back to chamber, but you never set it down. You kick again from that position.
Wow.
And he does that 3 times while wearing this like, everything. And so like to do something like that and to do that again, what I assume, take after take after take while wearing something that's very awkward, not just heavy, but like unwieldy and uncomfortable, and a mask that's obscuring half your face and like all that sort of thing. Like some of the stunts are really, now that was shot in it shouldn't have been as close up as it was, but this is, to be fair, a problem I had with the first movie as well.
It's shot in a way
it's all
that
way
I think
too
is
close.
The exact opposite of how you should cover
100%
stunt choreo. It's insane.
Yeah, but
somehow shows
the choreography is not necessarily good, but some of the things that they are doing within the choreography is very impressive on an individual basis.
It must have meant like you can watch it and actually look at the moves and scrutinize them, whereas for me, I'm like, it's a flurry of kicks and I'm sure they've got it right. Like I have no critical thinking when it comes to
one of the other things that's a lot of fun is a lot of the, like, for example, a lot of the quote-unquote kill shots, like the one near the end, will jump ahead where he does that like double backflip and kicks the guy into the I'm like, that is, from where he is, that is possibly the least effective thing you can do, is to like leave the ground with both feet and like everything, but it looks cool, right? So like a lot of this choreography is about what looks cool,
well, do you mean like the bit where the fucking hand missile gets shot at Liu Kang, like to his right, and then he runs towards it and then backflips away from it?
No, but I know exactly the one you're talking about. There is a lot of gymnastics in both of them as well. Like there's things that are a lot of wire work. Well, there's in the first one, there's literal ones where he's in like a cave and he's doing a high bar routine and then does a flip off of it.
Right.
Like there's a lot of gymnast stuff and a lot of stuff that just, it's like, this looks cool. It's not really effective in a fight.
I was going to ask you, what do you think of Robin Shu's martial arts abilities in the film? Considering I do know he did have a stunt double for a few scenes, and it was only because he had to do other scenes while they were shooting those. Like they were doing 2 shoots at a time.
There's also a lot of things where insurance will be like, you can't do this. Like even if he's, I'm sure, perfectly capable of doing it all. I really enjoyed his fights quite a bit. In the first one, he gets to do a fight with a bow staff, which was a lot of fun. And then they do the last fight, his last fight, which is on this really uneven floor where they've got, for effect, like the Mortal Kombat logo is like raised 2 inches. And then they're both, I'm like, why? You're going to break someone's ankle. Why would you put that in a place where you have to do stunts over and over and over again? Like someone's going to break a toe or an ankle. Anyway, so I really enjoyed watching him. But again, I don't think in either film, the cinematography is not set up for that. And there's a lot of, like, that flip, he does a couple of flips and you're just kind of like, this is the least effective way to do anything, but it looks cool.
Because he runs towards the missile and then flips away from it.
Yep, absolutely.
He could have just stayed where he was and it would have been more effective.
Oh, so
I wanted him to do more weapons work, to be honest.
Okay, good to know. Again, I can't scrutinize whatsoever. I did like watching the girl that played Jade, who comes in. She comes in in like Act 2, and she is one of the tests for Lou when he is kind of being trained by Nightwolf. And she comes in and they have a fight, and then she's like, I'm one of the tests, and he's like, I could have killed you. Turns out later she does betray him. She has tricked him. She is working for Khan. And I enjoyed watching her martial arts. No, I'm sure she wasn't that skilled in. You can probably, I don't know, let me know what you think about it. But I enjoyed watching her because I thought she was enjoying herself. And then I found out that the actress really didn't know anything about martial arts and trained for 6 months for the film and loved it. She was like, she wanted to do heaps and heaps of takes. And I was like, she is really enjoying herself on camera.
She's in Zoolander.
Yeah, that's what I recognized her from when she's like, hi, Derek.
Yeah.
She's at like a party or something.
Yeah, because she's a model as well.
She's a model.
Because it was driving me insane why she was familiar, as well as why Sindel was familiar. And then I clocked it as I looked it up. I was like, oh, she was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? She's one of the sirens.
Oh.
The You and Me and The Devil Makes Three.
Yeah,
She's like the lead one with the really, like, I was like, it's the mouth. Her mouth is so distinctive in both this and that. And I was like, fuck, that's why she's so fucking familiar.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad of an actress she was.
Yeah, and to be honest, because of the makeup they put on her, which was really metallic.
Yeah.
For some reason, there were
So
a few shots where
so
she's
purple.
beautiful, but for some reason, she was
beautiful.
reminding me of Kim from Kath and Kim. She had like the long hair, the horrible makeup, and she was just kind of sitting there smiling smugly. And I was like, this is Kim behavior.
All of our American listeners, like all three of them that may or may not listen to this podcast, when I tweet it out, are going to be very confused about this
they had
reference.
a
But I
remake in
love
America,
it. Oh,
so-
which I watched.
It was awful.
The pilot of Only, and it's
awful.
so bad.
bad.
So
Melbourne-
bad. This is another reason Australians should probably hate
Melbourne
America.
is the city where we have the most listeners, but I think it's like something like 55-60% of our listeners are from the US.
All right. Well, great.
So, sorry, guys.
Welcome.
We have a silly amount of them for whatever reason. Don't know how we
just
got there.
Just a silly amount.
Just a silly
It's
amount.
easier to advertise on platforms where Americans are.
There you go.
You know,
And there's more of them.
there's more of them.
Yeah, they outnumber us by quite a lot.
Yeah, I think they outnumber us like 10-1.
Yeah.
If we ever went to war, we would lose.
Yeah. Anyway, she's reminding me of Kim.
Not be
She was
honest.
in-
We're very war happy.
Yeah, that's why it's like, hey,
yeah.
we should be friends.
But yeah, I didn't enjoy Sindel's performance either. She
No.
was awful.
Well,
Okay.
no, I loved her performance. It was bad.
Did anyone else get a weird incesty vibe between that with that whole plot line?
Only in the one bit. In the
that one bit,
yeah.
I didn't, and then all of a sudden there's a bit, and I'm like, wait a
Which
second,
bit?
where's
Our
this
eternal
going?
love.
Yeah, it's like touching her face, and it's being like our internal love. It is very much literally the script. Literally, the words she is saying is exactly the exact same words that you would say if
Yeah.
it was like your girlfriend is lying there dead, and you have to like say, like this eternal love that we will flame or whatever will like bring you back, and we will be together forever. And you're just
Don't
like, whoa.
look that different in age as well.
Do you mean they're not? They're 4 years apart.
That,
Oh,
that
of course.
They're 4
explains a
years
lot.
apart. Yeah. Do you mean the scene where she has to, connect with her mother again, and she like puts her
Stroking
hand
her
down
face
her?
and like
Yeah.
It was the
her
hand on
body.
the shoulder where I was like, this
Yeah.
is weird. But then she grabs her hand and holds it, and I was like, well, that's a bit better. But it was strange. It was a strange scene.
Yeah, it's, our love will like ride through eternity or whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Is she in the first one, Sindel?
Yeah, is she?
she's mentioned.
Okay.
To be honest, like watching them both so back to back was actually maybe more confusing.
A lot
than
of
it had
names.
been. But they tell about her backstory
Yeah.
a little bit, but I don't think we actually see her in a flashback.
Can I ask Mel, what was Christopher Lambert like as Raiden? Do you remember much of his performance?
I'm so
'Cause
glad
I
we're finally
love
talking
him
about Raiden.
and his strange little French accent where he is clearly not French.
I'm from New York.
I'm from New York.
Just I wish he was in this so that he could deliver my favorite fucking moment of the movie where they're just out in the middle of fucking nowhere and then
Michelle,
from
yes.
a void space Raiden, who's been like missing for a while, just flips. Like literally it just cuts to a shot where he has begun flipping already.
It's like imagine like there's a shot of just like a piece of desert that's not moving, and then all of a sudden they have cut to the new shot where he's already halfway through flipping into the frame.
Yeah.
So he just really just appears and
then
is still flipping
a
in.
really subtle jump cut as he
Yeah.
lands to hide that it's a stunt
And then it
performer.
pulls out.
It pulls out and then he goes, "Never give up hope."
Never give up hope. That bit was so funny.
I wanted to hear
had
Chris
rewind
Lambert
it.
go, "Never give up hope."
Never give up hope.
That crotch cam move, I'm doing that for shot 0. I saw that on your story, and I'm like, this is happening. I
I
love this.
think it might be my favorite single shot in this entire podcast.
It
I love it
was
so much.
fantastic. I rewinded it so I could watch it again. It was so good. So
His wig in the first one was so bad. I will say this. So like I watched Street Fighter, The Legend of the one that I ended up not being on the podcast for. And I just remember thinking all of these actors are in a totally different movie. Like all of these actors have a very different idea of what this movie is. And the thing with Mortal Kombat is like all of these actors they're in the same movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
And he knew exactly what movie he was in. And I feel as though the wig probably informed a lot of that. You know, for a lot of actors, right? You kind of, it's like, oh, I have this prop piece or this outfit or this whatever. I'm like, I feel like the wig really, you get that, it informs what's happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just love that Christopher Lambert, he's either in movies or floating around movies that we tend to do. Like we've done Highlander, we did Beowulf, now he's floating in the Mortal Kombat realm.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting.
It's
I
so
hope we
exciting.
continue to meet him in our future films.
I love, again, I wish he was the one who delivered Never Give Up Hope.
Never give up hope.
It would have been perfect. It would have made my entire
He
year.
pulls a Tommy Wiseau and he says, well, I'm just from New Orleans.
And just from New Orleans. Well, he is from New York.
New York.
He's like when I do his voice, I'm trying to do Northern French, but really I think what I'm doing is a less breathy Werner Herzog.
I know that I do the exact same thing.
With the Happy New Year, losers.
Yes. The volcano.
Get it, losers. We're going losing.
spouting
We've gotten to
lava.
Mean Girls now. I'm like,
Oh,
this
I
is
was
fun.
doing a specific Werner Herzog quote.
Yes, no, I
Yeah.
know, but
Okay,
as soon
yeah.
as you said it, it made me
Yes.
think of the way she says that. So we're just like, it's like a version of not charades. What's the game where you like 1 degree of separation every time? We should do that with accents and movie lines.
Oh, the whispers one. Chinese whispers? Ugh.
We call it telephone, but that's not what I mean.
Great.
It's
That's a
one
much
where you
better name
intentionally
for it.
change one thing and make it into another as you go around the circle.
Oh,
and
you
have,
intentionally change
Yeah,
it.
and you have
Oh.
like you're saying it out loud, and you have a limited amount of time to like get to the next like movie title or whatever by changing like one thing. But you could do it with quotes.
You know how we're talking about Australia still has its racism? I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
telling that we only know it as Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
And you were like, I think it's called telephone.
The first, there are certain things that I hear here that I'm just like, what? Now, I've heard that before, obviously,
Yeah.
but
as an adult, sometimes I just like recall what something is called and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus, why do we not stop doing
Oh, don't worry. The U.S. has that. We call it
Yeah.
like sitting Indian style, for example, Indian giving.
The Washington
which,
Redskins.
The irony about the Indian giving is that it was white people who did that to the
Yes.
Indians.
Yes.
And then we
Yes.
call it Indian giving, like the absolute unmitigated gall.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Joey Ramone did a horrible song called, like the cover of Indian Giver. And that's always
my
been
God.
imprinted in my memory. It's a horrible song.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear some trivia?
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
sure.
All right. In separate 2012 interviews, Mortal Kombat co-creators Ed Boon and John Tobias hated the film so much they considered it the absolute worst experience in all the years they spent working on the Mortal Kombat franchise.
What did they think of the first film?
I think they thought it was fun. I don't think they thought it was fantastic, but
That's
I think
so
they
weird.
liked it. They had nothing bad to say about it from my research. But all they did was provide voices in both films, I'm pretty sure.
People have
they?
got to
Yeah.
be getting something out of the plot of the first one or the
you're not
characterization or something that me, as someone who knows absolutely nothing about,
Someone
like the lore
explain
or
this
the
to
whatever.
Mel. If you don't explain this to
Doesn't get it.
Mel, you just won't be able to sleep for the rest of your life. Your insomnia will get worse. Yeah.
Yes, please save me, dear listeners.
This is what you're going to spiral over tonight in bed. What did I miss? I don't understand. In a 20th anniversary Q&A for the first movie, Robin Shou and director Paul W.S. Anderson expressed their dislike for this film also. So a lot of people have just turned their back on it.
Especially Robin Shou, I can see where he would have thought it definitely did him dirtier than the first one.
Yeah, for sure. This film was featured in Rob Hill's The Bad Movie Bible. I didn't know what that was, so I looked it up. It's just a book that came out in the 2000s that people tended to, like all the people before really people used the internet. If you wanted to be a bad movie connoisseur, this was the book. It's quite
Oh.
famous. A lot of people have used it in the past, and I want to get my hands on it.
So if
Yeah,
you had a
me too.
podcast 20 years ago, this is what you would have
Yes,
Yeah.
run it off of.
exactly right. For years, a third Mortal Kombat movie was being developed by New Line Cinema to atone for the poor reception to Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Mink was hired to direct. I've never heard of Mink before, but that is the name he
Like
goes
Cher?
Like
like just mink.
Like
And
the
it's-
coat?
by. Yes, and
Okay.
Or the animal, if you will.
That makes-
The
that
M
makes
is
perfect
not
sense.
uppercase; it is lowercase, and so it's just it's
Sure.
I didn't know
All right.
directors could do that.
So like
You
E.E.
know?
Cummings?
was hired to direct, and then Russell Malkai Malkahai was hired to replace him. Sean Catherine Derrick and Lawrence Kasanoff took turns writing the script, which would have had Johnny Cage resurrected, to help the heroes against Quan Chi and a resurrected Shang Tsung. According to cast members, Chris Casamassa, who would have reprised his role as Scorpion, said production was halted when Hurricane Katrina destroyed the sets in New Orleans, so the film ultimately never happened. It's like it wiped out their sets and they were like, fuck it.
So you're
At
saying
least
that,
Resurrection would explain why you have a different actor.
so there was
Yeah.
a good thing that came out of Katrina.
Yes.
Well, that's something. That's something. You know.
Was it really a disaster
It
if
certainly
this film
wasn't
didn't go
explaining
ahead?
to the U.S. why our infrastructure in relation to responding to global tragedies was needed to be revamped. Definitely
Yeah.
not that one.
No.
But Abby, by the way, that reminded me. You know that Johnny Cage is a movie star in the Mortal Kombat universe, right?
Yeah, that's
That
what I
was one of my
read.
favorite bits
Yeah.
of the first one.
Yeah.
But they introduce it and then never bring it up again. Like, they introduce you to him on a film set. And I love films that are like meta about filmmaking.
Yeah.
And they also, then you have this guy come in and is like, you are the best martial artist of your generation. And you're like, oh my God, well, if you have to tell me this, then he's not actually going to be good. But then the guy walks off and you watch he transforms into the bad guy. And you're like, oh, you're just stroking his ego because he's a film guy. And like, you're on this set and he thinks, like, I love the meta stuff. And then they just like, he is clearly a movie star throughout. Like, he has
Yeah.
the sunglasses.
The
And he's like,
sunglasses.
oh, these are $500 sunglasses or what. But they never made any real use of it ever again, which is disappointing to me personally.
The games are kind of like that. I mean, the games involve him getting married to Sonya Blade. They have a kid together, and then then they get divorced, and he's kind of a deadbeat dad. But then, like in 11, he ends up like sort of redeeming himself and being a good father again. It's really funny to me.
The character that he plays in the first one would 1,000% be a deadbeat dad. Like, no doubt whatsoever.
It's so funny to put in
strange.
your fighting game.
I can't believe that Johnny Cage was such a massive part of it, considering that in this film, again, if you haven't watched the first film, you'd have no idea he was considered like the second protagonist. He's
Yeah.
a guy that has 2 lines and then is killed, and he's performed really poorly by the guy
And
that
he
stands in.
motivates Sonya's whole arc, whereas in the first one, they have a mostly hate relationship
Really?
until
What?
that. Well, because he's just always commenting on her, her rack and her this,
Right.
and making sexist
they get
comments, but I'm
divorced.
doing it as a joke, so it's
Yeah.
fun. And she's like, oh my God, will you stop? And then at the end, they've kind of reached this, like, clearly they're trying to put, like, sexual tension between them. But a good reading of it is she just starts appreciating his sense of humor, and they become
Yeah.
buddies and can
Yeah.
like buddy about it. And then all of a sudden, like, he dies and she's like, this is the greatest tragedy of my life. And you're
Yeah.
like, what?
Maybe they'd already gone through the marriage and divorce
Yeah.
between the films.
And him being a good father.
Yeah. He hadn't become a deadbeat dad yet, and that's why she was mourning him.
So funny. They would never do that with Ryu and Street Fighter, have
I
an arc
cannot
where he
imagine
becomes
them having that sort of.
You know what though? I think they
development
would do
level
it
arc.
with Ken. I feel like they would do that with Ken, is have him be a deadbeat dad.
Fair.
I don't know enough about the character.
Neither.
To,
We'll have
You guys
just
watched
say,
the
yep.
movie. I think Ken would be... Well, actually, I feel like in the movie, Ryu kind of sucked and Ken was great. Anyway, this is not important.
This is what I've told you guys previously, but just to dwell on it for a moment because I thought it was sweet. Irina Pentiva is the girl that played Jade, and she told Femme Fatale magazine in a 1997 interview, "I loved my character so much that I could not get away from her," which is so funny because the character is minimal. But she made her English language film debut in this film because she's
Wow.
Russian. She's a Russian model, as we said. While having no martial arts experience, she underwent 6 months of training so that her character would grow into a powerful and sexy warrior. That was her own words. The fight
Correct.
scene that she did was shot in Thailand in a single take. And
Whoa.
she enjoyed the experience to the extent that she successfully asked the director to do a second take, but he didn't need it.
A single take
Yeah,
fight
that's-
scene is
that's
incredible.
Exactly.
Also-
she learnt this for the film.
I will say my favorite part of the film was her. Granted, it wasn't the fight thing where she reveals that she's double crossed
Yeah.
because she has played this character as this this type,
Yeah.
and then she just lays it on so thick
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
her. Like,
I actually think her performance was
I
quite
thought her
fun.
performance was a lot of fun.
The script sucked because she was like, "I have tricked you," but then when
Well,
there's
but-
this close up where she delivers this line, and I was like, "She's really giving it right now."
She really gives it. The line is gibberish because I think it's like Liu Kang asks like, "How could you do this?" And she
Yeah.
says, "I found it so easy," which I'm like, that's not a response to his question. That's an answer to a different question. How, like, whatever.
As we've discussed, the answers and rhetorical questions in this make no sense.
We had this happen last week with Ballistic, where it was just like a quip, and I'm like, so you bought a gun at a store.
But whatever she was doing for our American listeners, that is what we call serving cunt.
Yes. Well, in Michelle's words the other week. What did you say?
Was that I described Lucy Liu as Mother Cunt Risa because all she does is give.
I'm going to get this tattooed underneath.
Yes.
Lucy Liu tattoo.
Mel has a Lucy Liu tattoo, and
Yes.
it's the gayest thing I've ever seen.
It's incredible.
Okay, so we were talking about Shiva and how Shiva had a very quick demise. In the shooting script and novelization, Shiva is killed following.
I'm sorry, wait. And novelization.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I didn't clock that either.
God.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. What?
That to me, I was like, I don't have time to look into
Okay,
it. But
sorry.
we have to know.
Okay.
We will.
Yep.
We'll have to. The
We'll go back.
novelization.
Imagine seeing on someone's bookshelf, you go over for, say, like, a Tinder date or a Hinge date, and you see the, like, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the movie, the novelization.
Instant
and you're
red
like,
flag or instant let's bang?
Well, for
Let's bang.
me,
It's niche.
if she's cis, it's a red flag. If she's trans, it's a green flag.
Okay, so Shiva is killed following an extensive fight scene with Raiden, but the scene was never filmed, with Raiden instead fighting two raptors and Shiva being crushed by a falling cage. Her only action sequence is a brief quarrel with Motaro, though the film acknowledges her then current role in the games as Sindel's personal protector. They basically killed her that quickly because they couldn't afford the CGI
I was going to
costs.
say it had to be about the arms.
The idea was to have an
Yeah.
enormous fight scene, and during production, they were like, "We're not going to be able to budget
But
for
see,
it."
this is
Yeah.
the other reason. If they had actually made the body cast with the second pair of arms,
Yeah.
then they would
They
have
would've
already
been-
spent the money and you'd just be able to do it.
Yeah,
but it's really
exactly.
clear like they just did not have the
Well,
money.
Exactly.
They blew
right.
all the budget on Shao Kahn turning into an intestine monster.
You can also tell the point where they are trying to animate her set of arms and the point where they just give up and just copy her arms down and the arms are doing the
Yes.
exact same thing instead of doing
Yes.
4 different things.
Yes.
Like you can tell they started doing it and they went, wow, that's expensive. All right, we
I
give
think
up.
90% of it was the arms doing the same thing. It
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
rare that they bothered to make them more intricate.
But you know, the whole thing in the original Mortal Kombat is that, like, it was distinct in the way that it was animated because rather than just pure sprite-based, like, Street Fighter, is that they actually recorded people doing all the moves and then, like, pixel drew over those. And that's why it has this really distinctive, like, half live action pixel look.
I mean,
Such a
why would I
unique
know that?
art
But
style.
That's very
It's
cool.
very, very cool development thing they did.
Yeah.
If adding up all the back flips, front flips, and side flips together, there are a total of 54 of them in this film.
That's a great fact.
Yeah, thank you.
That is a lot.
I didn't find it
It's a
myself.
lot.
And here's my last piece of trivia for you guys. Not screened for critics.
Yes! Oh, I'm
Which
nutting.
really, as I say every time, should have been the title of this podcast.
It really
could
should have.
Yeah, just not screened for critics.
Again, once we get to the end of the list, that's what it will do.
No, I feel like you should get the book, the bad movie book, and then the title of that one, not screened for critics.
Yeah.
Because it's not rated, right? They're not rated. They're just in a list, so not screened for critics.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. So do you guys want to hear some reviews?
Yes, please.
This film had 4% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty
Wow.
fucking low, to be
Yeah.
honest. The critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes says, with its shallow characters, low-budget special effects, and mindless fight scenes, Mortal Kombat Annihilation offers minimal plot development and manages to underachieve the low bar set by its predecessor.
Every single, like, you could have told me that was the review of the first one, and I would go, yes, correct.
Yeah. But finally someone that gets you,
The shoe
Mel.
fits.
Finally someone
The
that is
gi
actually
fits.
validating your lived experience this morning. So maybe you'll sleep a bit easier tonight, just knowing someone
There
out there
are
got it.
aspects to enjoy about both of them. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, how do you hate one and love the other?
Yeah.
Jason Gibner of AllMovie wrote, whereas the first film was a guilty schlock pleasure, don't know how you feel about that, Mel, this sequel is an exercise in the art of genuinely beautiful trash cinema. Marjorie Baumgarten
Those are
of
both
the
great
Austin
things.
Chronicle wrote that it was nothing more than a perpetual chain of elaborately choreographed fight sequences that are linked together by the most flimsy and laughable of plot elements.
Correct. She says it like it's a bad thing.
That's right.
No, Mel, I think you put it best when you said that they're cutscenes.
Yeah.
They they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, usually I do like 3 IMDb reviews, but there was just so many good ones that I have got 4 for us. Here's a 10 out of 10. They're all 10 out of 10 reviews, and they're always my favorite because they're just unhinged. 10 out of 10 was left by Syntax 2000, and it was titled My Second Favorite Movie of All Time. Once again, you guys need to learn how to have fun with cool, cheesy movies. And once again, to all you video game junkies, my sympathies, I guess. This movie rocked and ruled beyond any words that could possibly I say. First, the casting. So much better than the original. Sandra Hess did a much more warm and believable Sonya Blade. And common James Remar deadpan and straight performance make him the ultimate Raiden. The only fault is the untimely death of Johnny Cage, masterfully played by Chris Conrad this go around.
How are you masterful when you have 2 seconds of screen time?
Truly, so forgettable. Like
If this, by the way, if this person does not tell us what their first favorite movie of all time is, I'm going to be real mad.
Well, you're going to be disappointed. They're going to leave that in the air.
Cannot leave with
We'll have to reach out to them.
No.
I know, we'll have to reach out to Syntax
Send us
2000.
an email, Syntax 2000.
It's been 18 years since they left this review, and we'll message them being like, so what's your first favorite
Listeners, please email them at syntax2000@gmail.com.
Brian Thompson is also very impressive as Shao Kahn. I loved the biblical references in this one as well. Also, the non-stop balls to the walls in your face action sequences. This movie just never let up. All I can say is awesome beyond awesome, baby. Awesome beyond awesome. I highly recommend this one, especially to Doctor Who fans. 10 out of 10.
What?
I know.
Whoa.
Excuse me?
What?
That is
What has this
quite
got
a
to do
thing
with
to
Doctor Who?
drop in the last
I
line.
know. What has it got to do with
To be
Doctor
fair,
Who?
Doctor Who also really terrible special effects, campy as hell, often gibberish, but in a good way. I say that as a loving compliment, I think I get what they're going with.
Well, and if this was 18 years ago, they're talking about old Who as well.
Yeah, well, I think the difference is that Doctor Who, unlike this, is well written.
I mean, there are a few differences, but yes, correct.
No, I think that's the only difference.
Okay.
Functionally between Mortal Kombat
Has
Annihilation
Doctor Who ever
and Doctor...
killed somebody with a bucket of water that turns into an ice spike halfway through it?
It's been going for almost 60 years.
I asked that.
Have.
Someone's going to email me angrily, pointing me to an episode.
They'll email us angrily, and then we'll have to forward it on to you. Here's another 10 out of 10 review left by Dragon Lord 7 2000. Wow, lots of 2000s
At least the name
going on.
matches the subject matter now.
Yeah, definitely. Mortal Kombat Kicks Ass is the subject of
Nice.
this, and it was left in 2004.
Oh.
The fighting scenes are amazing. This also, by the way, I love that you can go back on IMDb and look at reviews left 25 years ago
Yes.
and be like, this review left here absentmindedly
capsule.
is a quarter of a century old and is such a moment in time. The fighting scenes are amazing. The special effects are awesome. You fools not giving it a good rating are morons. And Raiden is the coolest character off MKA. Liu Kang, greatest person ever. MKA 2, and the person who plays him is the greatest. You can't disrespect Mortal Kombat. It's the greatest. If you've never played the game or watched the movies more than once, you should. It's the greatest. You people that watch movies and say you're critics is how he spelled it, not critics, but critics. Say that Mortal Kombat Annihilation was a bad movie should meet me. I'm a Mortal Kombat critic. And when I say it's good, it's very well should be.
I want to challenge them.
Meet me. I'm a Mortal Kombat critic. Sub-Zero didn't play much, nor did many other great MK stars of the video games, but they're still the greatest. I'm Dennis Gassaway, and I am and will always approve of the MK franchise. 10 out of 10.
I like that there's just a blanket thing about the whole franchise.
Yeah,
I love the chronic use of greatest. I want to start applying that to my day-to-day life. Here's another 10 out of 10 review called I Love the Woman in Blue, and it was left by Troken Mariel 17760. Warning, spoilers. Very short. I love the Woman in Blue. It was 12 months ago that I said this out loud as Sonya Blade first runs into Jax. I behaved this way because it was the result of the Hot Happy Meal, a tonal evolution that was instigated by magic. 10 out of 10. Can you help me with this?
I need a translator. That's not language
Can
I
we hash
speak.
this out for a second?
Yeah,
Let's
I
just-
think someone dropped a
Where's there
tab
a
and wrote a
toy
review.
tie-in?
Sorry?
First of all, was there a toy tie-in with this movie?
I don't know.
Because Happy Meal thing, right? Like,
yeah,
was there a toy
I
tie-in?
behaved this way because it was the result of the Hot Happy Meal, a tonal evolution that was instigated by magic.
I understand all those words in isolation.
I think
I had to think about it for a minute.
I think someone had some mushrooms and then wrote an IMDb.
I think someone had some kind of psychotic break and decided to log on to IMDb.
I think they saw. I assumed they were talking about Sindel when they said the woman in blue. She's dressed in purple, but she's the only like cool paletted character.
The thing is, like, Sonya is not in blue.
Yes,
she's in a white shirt.
tank top, and at some point is covered in mud.
And that's it.
She has like green little shorts.
Yeah.
I said this out loud as Sonya Blade first.
And she's not in blue in the first one either. She's wearing black shorts and the exact same tank top.
So Sonya Blade runs into Jax. This guy goes, the woman in blue.
He says, "I love the woman in blue" out loud.
He says it out loud.
Apparently.
Buys a Happy Meal?
I think has a Happy
really
Meal.
stoned?
At this
Well, he
point.
behaved this way because it was the result of the hot Happy Meal, which means he had it before. He had the hot Happy Meal first, then watched this movie, said out loud,
someone spiked his Happy Meal.
And then later wrote the review inspired by that moment.
Well, here's what I don't get. The hot Happy Meal was a tonal evolution that was instigated by magic.
Okay, so first there was magic.
The magic is what made it hot?
The magic made the hot Happy Meal, which he ate. Then later he watched Sonya meet Jax, and then he said out loud, "I love the woman in blue."
We're also assuming
this is a guy. Tonal evolution that came into play. If we could actually figure out what that is.
That's what makes the Happy Meal so great. Is the magic
tonal evolution? Maybe it's this. Maybe them seeing colors.
Yeah, or is it tonal as in the tone he used to say, "I love the woman in blue." You know, was that the evolution, the tonal evolution? I love the woman in blue.
I assumed it was modifying the Happy Meal, like it was like just a throwaway thing. But then magic, it's changed the tone of the Happy Meal.
What if magic was the Happy Meal? What if the magic meal, like the Happy Meal, was so magic that his tonal evolution, high now,
and I'm dead sober.
Well, the tonal evolution that he used to say, "I love the woman in blue," was caused by the magic of the hot Happy Meal he had.
I think this is a spell that you're reciting.
I haven't tranced both of you, haven't I?
If you read out that review 3 times in a mirror, the woman in blue will appear.
No, Troken Mario 17760 will appear behind you. Okay, last review. Thank you for helping me figure it out.
I mean, I'm glad that you know what it says now. I am more confused than ever.
I think it makes full sense to me now.
I think you're going to die.
Yeah. We've annotated the shit out of that one. All right. 10 out of 10 review left by Seth N172. And the subject is Mortal Kombat, in brackets, gong. This was left in 2006. Violence and gore, fighting and kicking, screaming and winning. Yeah, baby. Yeah, indeed. Sorry, but I just cannot get enough of the Mortal Kombat, no matter if I'm playing the 10 or so video game releases that were released, or if I'm watching the 3 or so movies based on this extremely and commercially successful video game series. And everybody can't get enough of that theme music, combining the Orient with new age techno dance music. I can hear it in my head now. Mortal Kombat, gong. Yeah. Please watch this movie tonight. All the Mortal Kombat gong games and all the movies are a 10 in my book. Kick and punch, gong, 10 out of 10.
Okay, there's way too many things to pick out of there.
Yeah.
There's very, very little gore in this movie.
I know.
Very
Where's
little.
the violence and gore?
I assume for a rating that they wanted it to be like more accessible, so they didn't have very much gore.
Sure.
Especially at the time, but
could they afford it? Who knows?
Also true. Well, squibs, like.
Also, I think the assumption at this point is that all video games are for children, and so the movie would thus be for children.
The video game is gorier than the film, even though.
Yes, but parents would assume it was for children.
Right.
Which is why a lot of kids
my
played it.
9-year-old son wants to go see the movie because he loves the game.
Yeah, not realizing that people like Scorpion rips out people's spine via their head.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with fatalities. Like its calling card was that you could input a series of special commands once you beat them to do a fatality, and it would be like brutally violent.
So in Mortal Kombat, it's called a fatality.
Yes,
and is that caused by your animality?
Well, no. In 3, they introduced the animalities where some of them can transform, and then later there's even the babalities and stuff. In the second,
what? Where you get
babalities? Yeah, where you get hot.
Yeah, that's right.
In 2, sometimes if you do it really good, a little guy pops out in the corner and goes toasty.
Yeah. What the fuck?
It's great. It's a wild franchise.
Where does the gong come into
it?
The
tone is all over the place in that series.
So that tracks with the first, because I felt the first one had more tonal shifts even than this one.
Yeah.
And so that tracks. I want someone now to have popped out of a corner in the first one and say, toasty, toasty.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, that was all of their reviews. Mel, what was your review for this film?
I do think that it was lowered by watching it immediately after the first one, sadly, because not necessarily in straight comparison, although I will say the use of color in the first one, I wanted there to be more of that in this one. But because it was like going on 3 hours of watching the exact same thing, and when you do that, you're just kind of like, no, A, completely my fault. B, really only my fault for not taking some form of anything before I watched it.
Amphetamine.
Yeah. It's a weird movie to watch at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, I will say.
Hey, we watched it tonight.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Mel, you're breaking the reality of the show, and Boss Baby is not going to be too happy about it. We always live in an eternal night.
Yes, in Rating Descending Land, we always are in eternal night.
Because the void space is very dark.
The shot, the crotch cam shot.
Oh, yes.
So much fun.
Please cover it in shot 0.
I'm going to.
I want to watch the shit out of that when you guys
Poor
do it.
Stu.
Yeah.
There were certainly 1 or 2 shots or sequences that I was like, this is fun. The whole thing was so stupid. So stupid, but it just never stopped being stupid. You're like, now you're on a ball in a Rube Goldberg machine going to another dimension.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the vent balls.
Sure. So I think... I'm very confused as to what to rate this film. I will give it a 2 out of 10.
Great.
Fair. I feel like, for me, like, this movie is like combining every single idea a 12-year-old has ever had, right? Like, as you just said, there's the vent balls with, like, they just are in a gyroscopic
By the way,
ball.
that should be a good thing for a film based on a video game that
It is.
12-year-olds
Yeah,
love.
exactly.
I'm saying
I
this
feel
as
like
a
it
compliment.
succeeds is what
Okay,
it's trying to do.
Okay.
Which is
Yeah.
that.
And as well, like...
Which is
usually
why
say
I want
that
to
in a
rate it a
negative
lot
way.
higher.
A lot of the time in this podcast we say it's like it was made by a child. So that's what we say a lot.
A robot has a tattoo that turns into a dragon upon its death, which also Sonia remarks by going, wait, that tattoo, I've seen it before on a robot and a woman.
So much fun. So much fun.
She also at one point blows sand into a fire that makes
it's
it
like
explode.
a fireball. Yeah.
Yeah, which kills the robot.
Yeah.
Which also then cuts to her and Jax in front of just a green screen of an explosion, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I think honestly...
You're making me want to say 5 now. I mean, because you're right. You are right about all of this. And it's all
fine.
great.
There's a demon ghoulie arbitrarily at one point. They mostly fight people or like monsters with faces, but this guy, his whole head is like a prosthetic thing, but he's just wearing a shirt and pants, and that's really funny to me. Then towards the end, in the climax, in the denouement of the movie, Shao Kahn and Liu Kang are about to fight. It's about to be intervened by the main bad guy, and then the 2 elder gods show up and like just put their hand on his shoulder. And it's like, no, this will be resolved in... And then as he says Mortal Kombat, you hear Mortal Kombat! And it does the fucking club mix of the theme
Yes.
song. Do, 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 do. And it's so joyful.
Yeah.
This movie's a 5. This movie's a 5.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yes!
And it's just because we have that stupid 5 out of 10 is a good year. I'd watch this over a good year. This
Same.
gets a 5.1.
This time I'm with you on that, for
It's
sure.
like, this is the lowest I could give it because it's over a good year. So it's a 5.1. But I still found it incredibly boring and tedious. But at the same time, I was enamored the entire time.
I would
So-
absolutely watch this again. I want to
Me
show
too.
everyone this. This
I
is the
do
kind of movie
too.
that makes me have the urge to go, like, you have to see
Yeah.
this
Ooh.
to
Yeah.
everyone around me.
Yeah, fully. Look, Mel, this is just proof of how we have become warped and twisted, and you are pure and safe, and stay
Untinged.
away from us.
You're a filmmaker,
infected.
and we're weird little gremlins.
Yeah.
Oh, but I aspire to be both.
Yay. That's
If
why
you
you're
did
here.
if you did this for 3 years as well, you'd also give it a 5. We've watched 160 of the worst films in the world.
Abby, we're not far
But
off
you
having
do
done
it
this for
so
4
that I
years.
don't have to.
Yes, so
that's
you
true.
don't
Well,
have to. Mel.
technically, we make
Although
you
you
do
may,
it.
yes, I have
sometimes.
now watched 4. Well, I've watched a few more just so that I can. There are some that I'll listen to or that I'll watch before I listen to the podcast. So
Nice.
Aw, thank
overall, we're probably up to about 10 at this point.
Oh God,
Hey.
what a dedicated listener you are. Well,
Wowie.
that was our ratings, and guys, guess what? We're on social media. Crazy!
Whoa,
Did you
what?
know we're on TikTok? Sorry, we're on X at Rate Descend Pod. We're on TikTok at Rating Descending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. We love the emails. Please send us. Please, someone just validate Mel's fucking crisis with these films. Someone needs to make Mel feel better. And Mel, where can people find you if they want to find you?
I'm also on X. I do run a project called Shot Zero. We're on Substack and X and Instagram. And I'm also on Letterboxd.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, honestly, Google my name. It's fairly unique. You'll find my website and probably way more than I want.
Your residential address, your credit card numbers. That's what people have written in for.
Yeah, my social security number, since you have so many American listeners that would actually know what to do with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd be like, wow, a number. Well, you can find also me on Twitter and Instagram at michelle.stclair. I'm now also on Letterboxd at mstclair, and I'm really enjoying it. As always, please go check out Unerased on Instagram at -18youth and on TikTok at unerased.tv. You can find No Ordinary Love on YouTube at No Ordinary Love Series. Now you can find Shippers on Instagram and YouTube at Shippers Series. Also, now...
we get it, Michelle.
Okay,
You're
sorry.
successful.
I'm not successful. No one's watching these. No. That's why I want them to go see it.
What was the last one you were going to say?
I don't think I had a last one. I think I forgot.
Michelle had to close her eyes and count on her fingers when she did that, just so everyone knows.
Because people post things in all these different places with names that are inconsistent. And so I'm like trying to summon from the back of my mind the part of the process that I'm not included in.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And you can't find me on social media because I never accept anyone's follow requests on Instagram. But you can find us on YouTube now under Rating Descending. And I will also set up a Letterboxd thanks to Mel's insistence so that maybe I can plug that in the future.
Nice. Or
when I'm back on, I expect you have a letterbox.
Yes. Okay. That's my homework.
Once you've done all that, though, or even before, you could leave us a review or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does make a difference.
Well, that was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Thank you so much, Mel, for joining us once
you,
again.
Mel.
Wait. Sorry. Can you give us that again?
Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
No, that was Mortal Kombat!
What are we watching next week, Michelle?
Next week, we are watching Batman and Robin.
Oh, shit. The 1997 one?
Uh-huh.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
So two 1997 films in a row.
Two 1997 movies in a row. We're also going to have returning guest, long time since we've seen him, Shane Anderson.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I'm
Shane.
so excited to watch Schumacher's Batman and Robin.
I haven't seen it, so I'm really excited. Oh my giddy god. Mel
That
looks
might
like
be my
she's
favorite
about to
Batman
shit.
movie, so
Oh,
I'm
really?
very excited. I didn't realize it was on this list.
Yeah. Shane
My
Baxter,
favorite of that period of Batman movies, I should clarify. Otherwise, you will get a lot of hate mail.
Yeah.
Shane asked if he could do it like 2 years ago, and so we've just been running out the clock for it. I'm like, hell yeah, here it is.
Well, you'll just have to join us next week, and shall we do it one last time all together?
Mortal Kombat!